A lonely man, 2 widows, one cold mountain night. The mountain had a way of silencing the world. Snow lay thick on the pines, bending their branches like tired shoulders. The wind howled through narrow passes, carrying with it the voice of loneliness, a voice Elias had known for most of his life. His cabin stood alone on the rocky slope, far from villages, far from roads, far from people. It was built of old logs, darkened by decades of storms and winters that showed no mercy. Elias was a man of few words and fewer memories he cared to revisit. His beard was streaked with gray, his hands rough and cracked from chopping wood and fighting the cold. He had never married. Not because he did not want to, but because life had never asked him kindly. That night, the cold was sharper than usual. Elias had just set another log into the fireplace when he heard it. A knock. At first, he thought it was the wind. No one climbed this mountain in winter. No one sane, at least. He froze, listening. Then came another knock, weak, uneven, desperate. Elias grabbed his lantern and opened the door. 2 women stood outside, wrapped in thin shawls already stiff with ice. Snow clung to their hair and lashes. One was tall, her face pale but proud despite exhaustion. The other was shorter, trembling violently, her eyes wide with fear. "Please," the taller woman said, her voice cracking. "We don't mean harm. We need shelter. Just for the night." Elias studied them. Widows, he realized quickly. He had seen that look before, the hollow stare of those who had buried love and been left with nothing. "The mountain is not kind to strangers," he said slowly. "We know," the shorter woman whispered. "But it's colder out there." The wind screamed as if proving her point. After a long pause, Elias stepped aside. "Come in." Inside, the cabin was small but warm. The fire crackled, throwing shadows against the wooden walls. The women sat close to the hearth, holding their hands out like children rediscovering warmth. "My name is Mara," said the taller woman. "This is Ellen." Elias nodded but did not offer his own name. He poured them hot water with dried herbs, his only luxury, and watched as color slowly returned to their faces. "You're alone up here?" Ellen asked softly. "I've always been," Elias replied. Mara studied him carefully. "No family?" "No wife," he said, staring into the fire. "Never had one." Silence filled the room, not awkward, but heavy with unspoken truths. The storm worsened as night fell. Snow buried the cabin door halfway, sealing them inside. Elias laid out blankets on the floor for the women. "You can leave at dawn," he said. "If the weather allows." Mara nodded. "Thank you. You've already saved our lives." They did not sleep much that night. The wind rattled the walls like an angry spirit, and memories rattled Elias just as hard. He lay awake, listening to the women's quiet breathing, wondering how fate had brought them here. By morning, the storm showed no mercy. Snowdrifts reached the windows. "You can't leave today," Elias said bluntly. Ellen's face fell. "We were trying to reach the valley village." "Then you chose the wrong mountain," he replied. Mara sighed. "We didn't choose anything. After our husbands died, we were told we were a burden. We were asked to leave." Elias looked at her sharply. "Asked?" Mara's jaw tightened. "Forced." Something old and painful stirred inside Elias. He knew that cruelty. He had been driven from his own village years ago after refusing to bow to a powerful landowner. Solitude had been his punishment, and his refuge. "You can stay," he said. "Until the snow clears." Days passed. They shared simple meals, bread, soup, dried meat. Ellen helped sweep the floor, her movements careful, grateful. Mara chopped vegetables and told stories by the fire. Stories of fields in spring, of laughter that once filled small homes. Elias listened more than he spoke. One evening, as the fire burned low, Mara asked quietly, "Why did you never marry?" Elias stared at his hands. "I loved once. Long ago. Her family wanted wealth. I had only mountains." Ellen smiled sadly. "Mountains are honest." "Honest," Elias repeated, tasting the word. As nights passed, the cabin felt less empty. Laughter, soft, uncertain at first, found its way into the wooden walls. Elias noticed how the silence no longer pressed on his chest as it once had. But peace never lasts long in the mountains. One afternoon, Elias returned from checking his traps to find Mara coughing violently, her face flushed with fever. Ellen hovered beside her, panic in her eyes. "She's been cold since morning," Ellen said. "I tried everything." Elias acted without hesitation. He fed the fire until the room glowed with heat, wrapped Mara in extra blankets, and brewed the strongest herbal medicine he knew. Through the night, he stayed awake, changing cloths on her forehead, whispering encouragement he did not know he had in him. "Don't you dare leave," he muttered. "Not after coming this far." Mara's fever broke before dawn. When she opened her eyes, Elias was asleep beside the hearth, his head resting against the wall like a tired guard. Something changed then. Spring arrived slowly, cautiously, as if afraid the mountain might reject it. Snow melted into streams, and the world softened. "You could leave now," Elias said one morning. "The path is clear." Ellen looked at Mara. Mara looked at Elias. "And go where?" Mara asked. The question hung in the air. Elias felt his chest tighten. He had not asked them to stay, but he had not imagined them leaving either. "You don't owe me anything," he said quietly. Mara stepped closer. "We know. That's why we want to choose." Ellen smiled shyly. "This place doesn't feel lonely anymore." Elias swallowed hard. The mountain cabin changed with the seasons. Ellen planted herbs outside. Mara repaired old curtains and filled the space with small, gentle touches. Elias built another bed. Then another chair. Then, one evening, without thinking, he carved 3 wooden cups instead of one. "I never had a wife," he said once, almost to himself. Mara placed a hand over his rough one. "You never had a chance." Outside, the mountains stood silent, watching as 3 broken lives stitched themselves into something whole, not through romance alone, but through shared survival, respect, and choice. And for the first time in his life, Elias did not fear the silence. Because it was no longer empty.